If 1% feels boring, you're already in trouble. Not later, not someday, right now. Because the moment your mind starts rejecting 1%, it's not about profit anymore. It's about something deeper, something most traders don't want to admit. You didn't come to the market just to grow money. You came for stimulation. Think about it. There was a time when you first opened your trading app. Your heart used to race. Every candle meant something. Every move felt like opportunity. You weren't thinking about consistency. You were thinking about how much. How much can I make today? How fast can I flip this account? How close am I to changing my life? And that's where it started. Not with a bad strategy, not with bad entries, but with the expectation that trading should feel exciting. So when someone tells you, risk only 1% per trade, it doesn't hit you as wisdom. It feels like limitation. It feels slow. It feels small. It feels like it's not enough. And that feeling right there, that quiet resistance, that's the problem. Because 1% is not boring. Your brain is just addicted to intensity. You don't want to admit that, but your behavior exposes it. Look at your trading history. You follow the rules for a few days, maybe a week. You keep risks small. You stay disciplined. Nothing dramatic happens. No big wins. No emotional spikes. Just slow movement. And then something inside you starts whispering, this isn't working. This is too slow. I need to make more. But it's not logic speaking, it's withdrawal. Because you've trained yourself to associate trading with adrenaline, with pressure, with high stakes. So when things become stable, your brain interprets it as wrong, and that's when you break. You increase your lot size. Just a little. You justify it. This setup is strong. I've seen this before. I'll go bigger just this once. But it's never just once. Because the moment that trade hits, and you see a bigger profit than usual, something clicks, not in your strategy, in your psychology. Now 1% feels even more boring than before, because you've tasted something else, and that's how the cycle begins. You go back to 1%, but now it feels empty, slow, pointless. So you break it again, and again, until one trade doesn't go your way, and suddenly everything you built slowly gets wiped out quickly. Not because the market changed, because you did. You couldn't sit in the silence of discipline. You needed noise. You needed movement. You needed to feel something. And the market gave it to you, at a cost. This is where most traders get confused. They think their problem is inconsistency, but inconsistency is just the symptom. The real problem is this. You don't respect slow growth because it doesn't feed your emotions. You don't want to build. You want to feel. And the market punishes that, quietly, patiently. Every time you ignore 1%, you're not just increasing risk. You're revealing your mindset. You're saying, I don't trust the process. I don't believe small wins matter. I need more, faster. And the market hears that, not literally, but through your actions, through your position sizes, through your impatience, through the way you abandon your own rules the moment things feel too calm. Let's make it real. Two traders, same strategy, same setup. One risks 1% consistently. The other risks 5%, 10%, sometimes even more. The second trader looks better. At first, bigger wins, faster growth, more excitement. But what you don't see is the pressure building behind the scenes, because when you risk more, every loss hits harder, not just financially, mentally. Now your decisions aren't clean anymore. You hesitate, you revenge trade, you overanalyze, you chase, because now it matters too much. And that's the trap. You thought increasing risk would give you control, but it actually took it away. Meanwhile, the 1% trader, nothing exciting is happening. No big screenshots, no emotional highs, just small, controlled decisions. Over and over again. Boring, predictable, stable. And that's exactly why it works. Because trading isn't supposed to entertain you. It's supposed to pay you. But you turned it into something else. something emotional, something intense, something that gives you a temporary sense of power when you win and emptiness when you lose. So you keep chasing that feeling, not profits, feelings. And the moment 1% feels boring, it means you're no longer trading to grow. You're trading to satisfy something inside you, something impatient, something restless, something that doesn't want to wait. That part of you will destroy every account you touch. Not immediately, but eventually, because it can't survive in a system that rewards patience. And the market only rewards patience. It doesn't care about your urgency. It doesn't care about your goals. It doesn't care how badly you want to win. It only responds to behavior. And if your behavior is driven by emotion instead of discipline, it will expose you again and again until you either change or quit. So the question isn't whether 1% works. It does. The question is, why can't you stick to it? Why does something so simple feel so difficult? Why does slow growth feel uncomfortable? Because it forces you to face something most traders avoid: yourself, your lack of patience, your need for validation, your addiction to results. 1% strips all of that away. It removes the drama. It removes the excitement. It leaves you alone with your decisions. And most people can't handle that, so they escape into bigger risks, bigger trades, bigger mistakes, and they call it confidence. But it's not confidence, it's avoidance. If 1% feels boring to you, you're not ready for consistency, because consistency is built on repetition, on discipline, on doing the same thing, the same way, over and over again, without needing a reward every time. And if your mind rejects that, then it will keep pushing you back into chaos until you learn, or until you're forced to stop. So next time you feel that urge to increase risk, to speed things up, to break the 1% rule just this once, pause and ask yourself one question: am I trading for growth or for stimulation? Because your answer will determine everything that comes next. Now sit with that question a little longer. Am I trading for growth or for stimulation? Don't answer it quickly, because your first answer will probably be a lie, not an intentional lie, but the kind of lie you tell yourself to stay comfortable, because no one wants to admit that they've been spending hours, days, months, even years, staring at charts not to build something real, but to chase a feeling that disappears the moment the trade closes. So let's go deeper, because this is where things start getting uncomfortable. You say you want consistency, but consistency is repetitive. It's structured, it's predictable, and your behavior, it's none of those things. One day you're disciplined, the next day you're impulsive. One week you follow your plan, the next week you abandon it completely, and you keep telling yourself, I just need more discipline. But discipline isn't your main problem. Your problem is that you're still emotionally attached to outcomes. That's why 1% feels boring, because 1% doesn't give you immediate validation. It doesn't prove anything quickly. It doesn't make you feel like you're winning in a dramatic way. It just builds, slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. And that's frustrating for someone who wants to see progress instantly. Think about how you react after a trade. When you win big, you feel something: pride, relief, excitement. When you lose big, you feel something: anger, regret, frustration. But when you follow 1% and close a small, controlled trade, nothing. And that nothing is what you're avoiding, because nothing feels like you're not moving forward. Even though that's exactly what progress looks like. This is the part most traders never understand. Real growth in trading doesn't feel like growth. It feels like stillness, like you're stuck, like nothing is happening, because the changes are internal, not external. You're becoming more patient, more controlled, more precise, but you can't feel that immediately. So you start doubting it. You start thinking, maybe I need to do more. So you add more trades, increase your size, look for more setups, and slowly you drift away from the very thing that was working. Not because it failed, but because it didn't excite you. Let's be honest. If trading felt like a slow, repetitive job from the beginning, most people wouldn't even start. But that's exactly what it becomes when you do it properly. A process, a system, a routine. And routines don't give you adrenaline. They give you results. But results take time. And time is what you've been trying to shortcut since day one. That's why the 1% rule feels like resistance. Because it forces you to slow down. And slowing down means you can't hide behind speed anymore. You can't blame the market. You can't blame volatility. You can't say, I just needed one big trade. Now it's just you, your plan, and your execution. Every mistake becomes clearer. Every emotional reaction becomes visible. There's nowhere to hide. And that's uncomfortable. So what do? You speed things up again. You break the rule. Because chaos is easier to sit in than clarity. At least in chaos, you have excuses. But in structure, you only have responsibility. And responsibility is heavy. Because now, if you fail, you can't blame anything else. You followed the rules. You kept risk low. You did everything right. And still, results are slow. That's where most people quit. Not because they lost money, but because they lost excitement. They didn't sign up for slow. They signed up for transformation, for quick change, for financial escape, for something dramatic. And the 1% rule doesn't give you drama. It gives you stability. But stability doesn't look impressive. It doesn't make good screenshots. It doesn't get attention. It doesn't feed your ego. And that's another layer of the problem. Your ego is involved. You don't just want to grow your account. You want to feel like a trader. You want to feel skilled, in control, ahead of others. And big trades give you that illusion. They make you feel powerful, temporarily. But they don't make you consistent. They make you dependent. Dependent on moments. Dependent on luck. Dependent on catching something big. And that's not trading. That's gambling with extra steps. The 1% rule removes all of that. It strips trading down to its core. Decision, risk, execution, no drama, no excitement, no shortcuts, just process. And if you can't sit in that process, then no strategy will save you. No indicator will fix you. No mentor will change your results. Because you'll keep sabotaging yourself the moment things become too boring. Let's talk about something you probably don't notice. The moment right before you break the 1% rule. It's subtle. You're looking at a setup. It looks clean. Everything aligns. And then a thought appears. This is the one. Not this is a valid trade. Not this fits my system. This is the one. That sentence carries emotion, expectation, attachment. You've already imagined the outcome. You've already seen the profit. You've already felt the win. And now, 1% feels too small for that vision. So you increase your risk. Because in your mind, this trade deserves more. But what you're really doing is rewarding your emotion, not your system. And that's dangerous. Because the market doesn't care how good a setup looks. It doesn't care how confident you feel. It doesn't care about your conviction. It only cares about probability. And probability doesn't guarantee outcomes. So when that perfect trade loses, it hits harder. Because you were invested emotionally, not just financially. And now you're not just dealing with a loss. You're dealing with disappointment, broken expectation, and that leads to the next mistake. You try to recover, not logically, emotionally. You take another trade. Maybe bigger, maybe rushed, because now you're not thinking about process. You're thinking about getting back what you lost. And just like that, one small decision turns into a chain reaction. All because 1% felt boring. All because you needed more. This is how accounts get destroyed. Not in one trade, but in a sequence of emotional decisions. Each one justified in the moment. Each one feeling necessary. Until it's too late. And then you look back and say, I don't know what happened. But you do. It started the moment you rejected simplicity. The moment you decided that slow wasn't good enough. The moment you chose feeling over structure. So what's the way out? It's not motivation. It's not watching more videos. It's not finding a better strategy. It's learning to tolerate boredom. That's it. That's the skill no one talks about. The ability to sit in a system that doesn't excite you and follow it anyway, day after day, trade after trade, without needing validation, without needing a big win, without needing to feel like something is happening. Because something is happening. You just can't see it yet. You're building habits. You're rewiring your responses. You're learning to separate emotion from execution. And that takes time. More time than you want. More time than feels comfortable. But that's the price. And most people aren't willing to pay it. They want results without the process. Growth without the patience. Consistency without the repetition. And the market doesn't operate like that. It never has. It never will. So if 1% feels boring to you, good. That means you're finally close to doing things the right way. But here's the catch. You have to stay there. You have to resist the urge to escape, because the moment you leave that space, you go back to who you were before, impulsive, emotional, uncontrolled, and that version of you will always lose. Not immediately, but inevitably. So the next time you open your chart and nothing exciting is happening, no big moves, no perfect setups, no adrenaline, and you feel that discomfort rising, don't run from it. Recognize it. That feeling, that's the withdrawal. That's your mind asking for stimulation. And your job is to say no, not once, not twice, but consistently. Because every time you choose discipline over stimulation, you're changing something. Something deeper than your strategy. You're changing your identity from someone who chases to someone who executes, from someone who reacts to someone who follows a plan, from someone who needs excitement to someone who builds results. And that shift is where real consistency begins, not in the market, in you.